Karlik's Minecraft Story. Chapter 33, Dinner at Tomas's Place. That evening, Tomas invited a few people to his table. Not everyone, only those he trusted. Karlik sat a little to the side and listened carefully as Tomas introduced them one by one. "This is John," Tomas said, and nodded toward an older villager with calm eyes. "Our mayor." John nodded politely and smiled, but said nothing. He looked at Karlik as if he had already been thinking about him for a long time. "And this is Scout," Tomas continued, "our pathfinder. He knows the forest and roads better than anyone." Scout raised his hand in greeting and gave a short nod. He looked like someone who preferred watching to talking. "The last one is Pouch," Tomas said, "a traitor." Pouch smiled and leaned closer to Karlik. "You can come to me anytime," he said quietly. "If you need something. Emeralds, trades, deals, we always find a way." Meanwhile, Kdacek could barely sit still. He jumped onto the bench, then onto the table, then down again. Kdacek. And again. Every sound clearly meant the same thing. "Are we eating yet?" Tomas and Marta brought out the dinner, and it was no ordinary meal. Soup, a warm main dish, and several bowls of fruit. After a long day of work, it felt like a reward. Kdacek received his own bowl of berries and proudly looked around the room when he noticed he had something no one else did. At first, the dinner was quiet. Then people began to talk. About work, about fields, about broken fences. And then the conversation changed. Mayor John put down his spoon and looked at Karlik. "There is one thing," he said slowly, "that only a few people in this village know." The room fell silent. "The fact that we're telling you," he continued, "means we trust you, and maybe that we hope." Scout shifted slightly. "Some objects like to hide," he said quietly, "not because they are powerful, but because they attract attention." "Our village," John said, "has been hiding something like that for generations. It doesn't hold great power, but it has enough strength to be heard." Karlik listened and felt a chill run down his back. "Once every many years," John continued, "someone tries to find it, and when that happens, they begin to come." "Skeletons," Scout said. "Zombies," he added. "Not all of them on their own. Someone sends them." Pouch sighed and tapped his fingers on the table. "So far, they're only testing us. Testing our defenses." Karlik stayed silent, but he understood. After a moment, Scout spoke again. "There's one more old story," he said. "People don't talk about it much." Karlik looked up. "Long ago," Scout continued, "this land wasn't guarded by just one protector. There was a watch." John nodded. "They were called the Path Guardians. They watched the roads, the forest passages, the places where the world bends." "And then they disappeared," Scout said simply. "No one knows where," John added. "Only that since then, we've had to defend ourselves, fences, torches, night watches." "When the attacks grow worse," Pouch said, "someone always remembers that things were once different." Karlik said nothing. In his mind, he saw the paths near the cave, places where shadows behaved strangely, and silence that wasn't empty. Kdacek made a small sound and pulled his berry bowl closer, as if to say, "Someone should guard this bowl at least." John took a breath. "There's more," he said. "Our well collapsed today. Without water, we won't last long." "I'll help," Karlik said immediately. Pouch nodded. "And for that, you can choose something from my shop. Tomorrow I'll explain how trading works in our village." Kdacek chirped happily and pushed his beak into the bowl. Dinner could continue, but something had changed. The fire crackled softly. Kdacek tried to hide another berry under his wing. Karlik cleared his throat. "And I've heard of something else," he said carefully. "A golem." They say one once guarded this land. The table stirred. An old legend, John smiled. They say it protected the area around the village, watched the roads, and then vanished. None of us has ever seen it. Scout added calmly. It's just a story, Tomas said, like many others. Karlik nodded and stared into the flames, but inside he felt something different. He knew where the cave was. He knew the golem was real, and most of all, he knew that if the golem wanted to be seen, it would show itself. Not yet. Not now. At that moment, Kdacek knocked a berry off the table, right near John's feet. The chicken looked at the berry, then at the mayor, and took one careful step back. John laughed softly. You see, he said, some things appear on their own, and others wait. Karlik smiled. Kdacek grabbed the berry and disappeared under the bench. The dinner went on, but something remained in the air. Not a threat, more like a promise, like a door that stayed closed, for now.